Hello and welcome to the Testing Peers, the first one of the new year in 2023. No, let's start again.
Good start, David. Well done. Keep that in.
We're waiting a whole year to release this, are we?
Okay, welcome to the Testing Peers. Today we are talking about motivation, what motivates us positively and possibly negatively in our lives and our working environments. Today we have all four of the Testing Peers. So we have Simon.
Hello.
We have Chris.
Hey.
We have Russell.
Hello.
And myself, David. Before we get on to the banter and the main part of the podcast, I'd like to thank our sponsors, Ben from Saffron QA. Saffron QA are specialists in testing recruitment, and they provide a range of bespoke recruitment services for organisations across the UK. For further details about Saffron QA, please visit the show notes or visit saffronqa.co.uk. So before we get on to the main part of the podcast, we have our normal banter, and today is going to be Simon that gives us the topic.
Thank you, David. Well, I was thinking about motivation, and the first thing that always comes to mind when I think of motivation is the song by Sum 41, Motivation. But I'm not going to go down that route. I was going to go more generally on motivation and really just what is it that gets you out of bed every day? What is it that motivates you? Russell?
My dogs need to go for a walk and go to the toilet. So the fact that it won't make a mess on the floor, that's my main motivation to get up. And wanting to be on time for work, I guess, is the other one. It's not that exciting.
So it's more of a duty than actually, yes, I really want to do this kind of thing.
I'm afraid so, yeah. I could put it and twist it and say it's the idea that I can spend money on my car by earning money that kind of motivates me to go to work.
Yeah, there we go. That was the answer I was looking for.
Reward.
David?
I was trying to think what actually motivates me. I enjoy just the fact that I can be busy on things. You know, it doesn't necessarily need to be for particular work, but actually getting up and doing stuff. And that can start with a cup of tea, doing whatever. Just the fact that I can start living my best life in that particular day and that moment.
Very good. Chris?
The physical need of getting out of the bed is normally because my two boys come into my bed about 6 and generally there's not very much room. But I mean, I like having stuff to do. If that means getting up and getting my coffee made and having a drink. At this time of year, which we're recording in December, listeners, I get an advent calendar because I'm still a big kid. So there's the joy of getting a chocolate every morning. But I guess it's having stuff to do, just like David said. Like I enjoy getting up and having work to do and having things to get stuck into straight away. I don't count down the hours till I can finish my work. I like to do stuff, and I still draw a line between getting work done and doing other stuff with my family, but I like having things to do. I'm not very good in quiet moments, be that with the real audio stuff or just having nothing to do, apart from when my body tells me I absolutely have to, at which point I'll just sit and be completely desensitized for a while, which does happen sometimes.
Yeah, I think I'm much like you, all of you really, is that desire to do something, you know, other than, as you say, dogs, kids waking you up in the morning anyway. My eldest just shouts daddy from his bedroom, which we hear over the monitor and hear through the door and whatever as well. That's usually my wake up call about 6 o'clock. He usually wants to come straight downstairs for breakfast at that point. But yeah, it's that getting up and trying to have a purpose with the day, whether it be work related or otherwise. I like keeping busy, but I also have that overall motivation that I'm providing the best life I can for my family by doing what I do. Well, I think we're all obviously very motivated people. But do we want to sort of talk more about motivation in the workplace and what it means to be motivated? So where should we start?
I was going to say, like, for me, a lot of things to do with motivation are to do with enjoying what I am doing and feeling like there is a purpose to it. Being busy for the sake of being busy doesn't motivate me. Just doing the same things metronomically doesn't really interest me. But if what I'm doing is something that I enjoy and I feel like it's making a difference, then I am motivated.
I would say a similar thing, actually. It's variety, which is why I enjoy the job that I do. And the different challenges that come out, especially being a test manager, the different challenges that you get. But actually, even in test, no day is the same, really, in test. You can always find different issues and things like that. And so I think feeling that or having that change every day is a good motivator.
Yeah, I would agree. As you say, every day is different. I also really enjoy working with the team I have at the moment. Every day is an enjoyment as far as coming to work, seeing what new ideas they're coming up with, seeing how we can move things forward. seeing what issues we found and how we've resolved them, and having that overall drive to make things better. That's definitely a driver for me. But I think, yeah, as you say, motivation does come from enjoying what you do.
I would also echo the fact that having a good group of people can be a very good motivator. I know it can be a negative motivator as well.
It can, absolutely.
People, but at my moment in my life at the moment, I am surrounded by a really good group of testers, and I learn something from them every day. They come with interesting ideas. I'm empowered to encourage those ideas and to self-fulfilling motivation on both sides. So they motivate me, and I can then, reciprocate that and motivate them back.
I think it's interesting. None of us went for a carrot and a stick type approach for what motivates us or drives us. It's no one went, not getting told off is our motivation. It's very much more intrinsic motivation sort of things versus that it was reward. So there's a lot, I think.
A lot of that comes back to where when we talked about that with performance and goal setting.
You talked about something there, which is about drive, isn't it? There's a book by Dan Pink called Drive. He puts forward sort of a different way of thinking about motivation. I don't think it's him alone. I think there's others, and obviously lots of surveys and things around it. But he's talking about moving away from that traditional just a bonus or something else like that as a reward to get things done. Talks about much more the intrinsic things that people, intrinsic, extrinsic, I can never get those two the right way around. But of kind of, I think you talked about there, it's becoming masters, building on your skills, growing as an individual, giving yourself that sort of thing. They also talks about sort of purpose. You have a goal, you have a direction that you want to go in, the path. And obviously then it's the autonomy, certainly as leaders, I think we probably all feel we do often have, to kind of help set and trust and build that ownership to develop, to lead in the direction that we want to do in. If you combine those with, I think, what David talked about there, which is, working together as a team, collaborating, then that's how you foster those sort of environments that makes those autonomy, mastery, and purpose work together. But yeah, it is a lot more complicated than that, though, really, I guess. But it's an interesting book, and certainly interesting to look into Drive if you want to.
Sounds good. The other thing I was going to say is that also being group lead, then you need to recognize what motivates each particular person. That, like you say, Russell, some people are very motivated by money or power or influence and things like that. So therefore, making sure that their path enables them to be influenced in that particular way.
There's definitely more than one way to motivate people, and we're all motivated by different things. And I think this is our classic tester. It depends on the context kind of thing. And the thing is, it's not even the one thing that motivates me today might not be the thing that motivates me like next month or the year after. Like things change, our perspectives change, our needs change, and things that make us happy and things that we enjoy doing will change as well. And that's both exciting and infuriating at the same time.
Yeah, the motivation to kind of every day at work is very different. The motivation needs to get a job, for example. You're motivated then by different needs, different reasoning. Understanding those needs, those reasonings, I think, as you said, helps figure out the person and the way to motivate them. Sometimes it is career progression, for example. Sometimes it is, I need to earn this much money in order to buy my dream house, and so on. And understanding that helps you work with these people to kind of build the right paths for them.
Yeah, you're right. It's definitely not good to assume that everyone's motivated by the same thing. And that is something to learn about your team, is what is it that motivates them, from the small things to the major things. A coffee, knowing what coffee they like when you go for a coffee break, so you can bring one to them. Just that can be a positive perk that can motivate them to then be part of a conversation or part of a bigger discussion or what have you. So yeah, absolutely, it's looking at the different approaches. I still find that the financial motivation is one that people tend to shy away from admitting, because they don't want to be seen all about the money. I confess myself sometimes as well that it's something that drives me to make a better life for my family, that I need to earn more money. But it's not something that people openly share in a work context all the time. It's the one that they'll moan about the lack of bonus, they'll moan about the lack of pay rises, but they won't actually explicitly say, that is my motivation. They'll find other ways of putting it out there.
Money is a big deal, and I think we all need enough money to live and be happy. It's a privilege, if you like, to not have to worry about it. If you can afford to take a pay cut to go and take a job that gives you that better work-life balance. But at the same point, I've worked in jobs where I've earned more money at times, and my work-life balance was much worse because I felt obliged to spend more time working and have my emails checked at all hours, or maybe I was traveling further for more meetings and things. And so I wasn't seeing my kids to put them to bed. And it's both a privilege, but also it's something that pulls you back. And sometimes actually, if I can't even get out of bed in the morning, if I don't have that motivation, if I start to feel like I don't care, then probably I need to take that step back. And yeah, money is definitely always on the cards when I'm talking about work, but it can't just be all about the money, because if I don't have that motivation to actually do the job well, that's beyond that financial reward, then I think I might actually hate myself a little bit, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think that you picked on a good point there, actually, the sort of work-life balance. I think that the sort of motivation now, especially post-COVID times, or in this particular sort of change of work environment.
Third wave
or fourth wave, however many.
Whichever wave it is, yeah.
But the point is that, you know, with people working from home, people are looking now for more flexibility, that they don't have to go into the office every day. And actually their motivation has changed in that respect of, I need good offices, I need to have good space. No, they need to have a better working environment or space to enable them to work better and more efficiently.
You're right. There's definitely that thing now where people will, you know, want that flexibility to be able to take the dog for a walk at any point during the day, rather than having to do it before they start work or end work, or go to the gym at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, because that's when they've got a lot of meetings and they're at home, so they can just pop around the corner to the gym. And that's definitely conversations that I'm now having as a manager with my team. Is I want to be able to do this. I will still work my hours, but my hours will be more flexible now that I don't have to come to an office. So yeah, absolutely, I agree. It's definitely a motivation for some people now that they want that additional flexibility.
It's interesting though, because in doing some interviews and things with people, I've actually come across people that my own biases came into it, that actually want to be in an office. They actually would rather be working in an office. And this pandemic has made me think, oh yeah, everyone's going to work from home. No, but it's not. Some people want that interaction, that personal. They can't function in isolation. And I guess there is still a place for that. We've got to kind of make sure that we do it, because again, I don't think it would work for them if they were the only one there. So we do need to kind of enable and help.
I would agree. And I think my motivation changes day to day. And actually I get very excited about going to the office on the 1 day a week that we're meant to be going in. That's a real motivator on that day, that I'm getting to see people face to face. I'm getting to work away from home for a day. So I think that flexibility where you get a bit of both does seem to motivate people in a more positive way.
It's an interesting thing though, isn't it? Because a lot of people talk about how junior engineers, new people into the environment are going to experience something really different to how we did when we started off working in an office, and we had that whole thing, and then we've transitioned into being relatively comfortable working from home. A lot of people don't obviously have a space that they can dedicate to working from comfortably the whole time, but also they will miss out on things that we did. There was a lot of serendipity involved in being in an office and picking up various things and learning from people who otherwise are quite happy to actually exist in their silo and not have to deal with other people. And my concern is that we can all look after ourselves working from home in our happy little space and turn up at the office whenever we fancy, because again, we're very privileged. But we do need to cater for, if we do have these people that need those things, we do need to check that people have got everything that they need. And I think there's an obligation on companies. It's been in the news recently that with a lot of people being told to work from home again, that companies aren't doing enough for those people working from home. They're still putting too much on the employees to ensure that they've got a safe working space where they can keep data secure and that they can do all of these different things. It's not easy. I know that post-pandemic, if there ever is one, that I'm still planning on working from home, but I'm going to try with people to get to meet them whenever I can. And maybe that will be more social, more meetups, more conferences and stuff. But it's not like we're all going to be 100% remote forever, hopefully. It's difficult, and we do need to ensure that we establish the context for the different people and meet their needs as well as ours.
It comes back down to the working from home thing, to autonomy, allowing people the kind of ability to decide where they work best, how they work best, and providing, to Chris's point, the ability to do so. Not just say, well, you can work from your own desk, but actually helping them make a good office, things like that. But yeah, it goes back just to those sort of, I guess, points about what fundamentally motivates us. having that choice is one of them.
We've been talking a lot about positive motivation, but there are some negative motivations, I think, from the working from home and generally. And I'd like to pick up on one is sort of online meetings. I don't particularly, when I was in the office, I enjoyed going to meetings because you'd have a bit of banter before, you had context of going to the meetings. But online meeting, sitting in the same environment that we have been for a year, seeing the same faces in their environment, sometimes it's exciting because someone is actually in the office and adds an extra perspective to it. But so often in this lockdown and this pandemic is that things have been the same. Actually, meetings have lost some of the motivation that I enjoy about meetings because of that monotony and lack of context within those particular meetings.
I think you're right.
I'd agree, and it's a funny one because it's we're sat here now having a meeting, virtual meeting, in the same place that we have all our daily meetings, but it's a different motivation almost because we're doing something fun in quotes. But yeah, you're right, absolutely. It can be a drain when you realize you're going to be sat at your desk for 8 hours of the day, literally clicking from one Teams meeting to the next. Yeah, absolutely, a complete drain. I think the big negative motivation for me, and we touched on it at the very beginning, is around people and around the working environment. I think we've all mentioned this before and different episodes where we've talked about the toxic environments that we may have worked in before. And that can be a real detractor from wanting to work, wanting to be in the office, wanting to do good by completing work, etc., etc. So yeah, that for me is the other big one alongside the remote aspects.
Simon, I know you mentioned it in the intro, but actually the words from that song by Sum 41 are actually really apt, and I wanted just to read them to you. Sorry for bringing you back to Chris's story corner, but I think they are actually really important because it talks about motivation in a negative connotation.
Not the whole song, no, Chris. Not the whole song.
Sing it, Chris. I won't even sing it. No. So it says, what's the point of never knowing at all when every step I take is always too small? Maybe it's something I can't admit, but lately I feel like I don't give a rude word. Motivation, such an aggravation. Accusations, don't know how to take them. Inspiration, getting hard to fake it. Concentration, never hard to break it. Situation, never what you want it to be. What's the point of never making mistakes? Self-indulgence, such a hard habit to break. It's all just a waste of time in the end. Don't care, so why should I even pretend?
Get you some help, Chris.
I need it.
Does sound like it. Some poignant words.
You're right. Some very poignant words.
It's a bit of a segue. People, as Simon was talking about before, Sum 41 came along. People do motivate us and they do ruin our motivations, to your point. It's like they say that most people leave a company because of the manager. They don't leave it because of the job. It's bad managers encourage people to leave. That's ultimately why they don't feel supported. They don't feel listened to. They don't enjoy the job. But the listened to and supported one is almost certainly the thing that drives a lot of people away. Opportunities does too. And don't get me wrong. I've left for an opportunity before, but I've also left for bad managers. But as you said, people impact heavily how you can motivate yourself. Do you want to work with these people? Do you want to work for your manager? Because ultimately they are leading.
I think that's a really good point, that leaders can be demotivating. But also I think that also the environment, people are quite happy sometimes to be in their environment and quite stable environment. So as soon as things again get knocked out of kilter, this can have a negative effect. And that can be a demotivator. And often after a big reorganization or personnel change where people come in, you need that sort of time for the dust to settle just to see. And actually, I think that the manager's role in that particular thing is to steady the ship, to reaffirm that everything is exactly as it was. There are times when revolution is needed, but actually after a time of revolution, it's then consolidation and reassurance that things, the main crux of things, can still continue and they still have a job and they can still continue in a similar vein to before, even if it's...
It does depend on the character of the people though sometimes, doesn't it? Because sometimes you can say to people everything's the same and they're just going, I can see, I'm cynical, I'm like, I'm a tester, I'm critically approaching all of these things. I've been told nothing's going to change, this is going to happen. Well, guess what? Everything changed, and a lot of it was in my head, because dealing with those sorts of things sometimes is very, very difficult. And it can sometimes be the slightest of things, like we talked about people, but it could be a shift in hours, or there's the work we're working on, or the tools that we're working with. If there's any little things, those things can grate on you. and they can act as demotivators. Imagine you've got a tool, and the way that we do use it is a really weird way, and it's infuriating. We might actively avoid using that because we're not motivated to use it. In fact, we're motivated to avoid that thing now, or we're demotivated to work with a certain team because of the way that culture is. Maybe the person that runs that meeting doesn't run it well, or you don't feel like there's a lot of these things. And sometimes we're not empowered to sort of challenge and change those things, or we've tried and we failed. And that can be really hard when you're met with a roadblock, or that when change happens and you're not a part of it, it being included with things, but also heard, is important.
So I guess my next question then is, what can we do to, I don't know, not change motivation, but how do we motivate people? How do we get the best out of them? How do we make them, help them get to the point where they are excited about being in the office or excited about working on particular things? What would be your tips? You
can't always motivate people to be excited about working on a place or a thing. It's finding out drivers, how people really, what are they trying to achieve, and those things. And some people really don't want somebody to do anything for them. Some people do just want to turn up, get the job done and go. And it's spending time understanding people, listening to them, listening to what they want and what they need, and articulating in a really respectful way what you want and what you need, and having that sort of open, respectful space with your team is the best way to do it. And motivation looks different to everybody, like we said, and maybe what I want to get out of you isn't what you want. And no matter what I do, no matter how many times I say things or try things, it ain't going to work. And that could be a demotivator to me. But at the same point, the relationship with the people is the most important thing. That relationship ultimately is the key, I think, to motivation all round, shared.
I would also say that actually it's not just the sort of work environments, there's also getting to know them personally as well, and what drives them, a bit like what Simon said about, finding out about their coffee. They are more than just work people. They are personalities, and it's in order to motivate people, find out what they find enjoyable in life and have discussions about that. Russell in his car, Simon and his dogs, Chris and his kids.
I think as leaders, you need to make sure that you're not doing things to detract from the motivation as well. So this is the thing about, commit. If you say you're going to do something, do it. Try and exceed expectations. I think we've all had gifts occasionally or something like that where someone's gone when we didn't expect it. It meant a lot more to us. It made us much more positively inclined to that person, company, or whatever, to think of them in a positive light. It kind of goes to customer service to a degree. You don't just want to meet expectations, exceed it. Someone calls in with a problem, sending them a card out and things like that. I think one of our Slack channels, someone got a note in the post just saying, hope you're okay, blah, blah, blah. It's doing things like that make you want to be part of things, make you they go to the inner motivation factors. They're not reward, they don't make you money, but they kind of make you feel part of something. And I think as leaders, if we can kind of spot those opportunities to kind of do things, and it could be the sort of corporate reward systems that we have, using them sensibly. It could be a note at Christmas. I'm not really a Christmas card guy, but I could see how it would be beneficial to send cards to different people in my team to say Merry Christmas. I've actually just spoken to them all instead, because that's me doing those little things.
I think that needs to come from the right place. It isn't just a rubber stamp, I need to send this card out because that's what I do. And we've mentioned it on previous episodes, that it needs to come from the correct place.
They have to be genuine.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that's something I've been toying with this Christmas. Was actually, do I need to send my team all messages of some kind, a card, etc., etc. And actually, I didn't. But I'm doing a meeting this afternoon to talk through, Happy Christmas kind of thing, and talk about successes for the year. And that's my way of thanking everyone for doing it. So it's finding the right way to motivate them, but also not breaking your back in doing it as well. When you've got lots of people in your team to try and say thank you to. Yeah, it's a difficult one, but it's equally trying to find the right ways of motivating them.
I found a cool quote from a talk that Selena DeLessi did earlier this year on a Agile deep dive thing that Eurostar did. It said, when you like the work that you're doing and the people you work with, you'll find it more enjoyable. Self-created teams and projects just succeed better together. It's kind of that succeeding together as a team thing. I thought it's kind of a cool quote.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, I would agree.
Thank you very much for joining us in this episode of the Testing Peers. It's been delightful to speak to you about motivation, drive. We look forward to you listening again. Please feel free to reach out to us on one of our many channels. You can reach us on LinkedIn, Twitter, email, contact us at testingpeers.com. Our website, you can leave comments on the posts we put up there. I'm sure we're on we're in Instagram, we're on Patreon, and I'm almost certain I've missed a few areas that we've got. So do give us feedback. We appreciate any of that you've got. Thank you once again for listening to us and putting up with us. We appreciate that. Thank you.
For now, it's goodbye from the Testing Peers.
Goodbye.